Well, I wanted to do a quick video explaining how to replace the starter on a 2007 Chrysler Town & Country. Now, the way we checked and knew we needed a starter was we turned the key and it went tick, tick every time we turned it. It just ticked. It didn't go tick, 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 tick. That would have been a low battery if it was constantly ticking. It just went tick, and all that was the gear engaging into the flywheel was that tick. The motor was not turning. We tried to hit it with a hammer and hit it with a bar to try to get off that dead spot in the starter, but it wouldn't. So what we did was we unhooked the large red cable to the starter and the small cable, and we plugged in the new starter. So there's a little pin here. We took it off the old one and put it on here, and we put the big red one on here. And then when we turned the key, making sure it was grounded to the frame, it went zzz. So we knew it was the starter. So this thing was engaging. This would engage with the flywheel, but it wouldn't turn over. We tried hitting it to try to get it off that dead spot, but it didn't do it. So that's how we knew we needed the new starter for sure when we hooked up the new one. While this was still hanging, we just let this dangle and kind of touch the frame rail, and I held it, turned the key, and it whizzed up. So we knew that's why we needed a new starter. First is buying the starter. We go to Advanced Auto because you can go on Slick Deals and find those coupons for 30% off or 40% off. We found $40 off 100 when you put in TRT41. It always changes, but so the starter was $130. We got $40 off. Then you have the core charge for another $40, so it's like $70, which isn't bad. The next thing is, it is 2 bolts. Ours was 2 bolts, and then there's a stub. The problem is getting to them. The first bolt you can get to. It's underneath. But let me first show you the starters. There's the old one, there's the new one. The first bolt is this one, and that is underneath. And let me try to show you where it is. If you can see, it is right there. And you can get to it, but there's not a lot of room. So you can start it with a socket, and then you got to get in there with a wrench, or else your socket will bottom out on this. So you can start it with the socket. That's the easy one to get to. This thing right here, there's a hole there, but there's no bolt. I think in the diagram it showed a bolt, but there is none. It's just this bottom bolt. The hard one is getting to that top bolt. You can see that shiny kind of area up there. That is the tough one. And the reason it's tough is because you have to take a lot of things off, including the fan and the shroud. So, to take the shroud off, you take these 6 screws off. There's a bolt here and a bolt here, and you can take that shroud off. The next thing is this frame rail, and you do have to take that off. You first pop these clips off, that one here, and then you take off 2 bolts, a bolt here, a bolt here, a bolt here, and a bolt here. And you can take that off and move it up and put a towel down so you don't short it on the battery. The next thing is the fan. There is a bolt here that you take off and a bolt here. They're 10 millimeter. These were 13 millimeter. I think that was 10. Then you got to get these clips off. These are a bit of a pain. You pop the red thing off, and then you have to lift up a flap here, which I broke because it's 9 degrees outside. But you get a screwdriver under there, lift it up, and you pop this off after you pull that out. Then you kind of jiggle the fan out. It's a little tricky. You kind of jiggle this side off and then lift it up. So the next thing you have to do is move this out of the way so that you can get a 15 millimeter on that bolt. We tried everything to do it without removing everything, but all these parts got in the way. These pipes got in the way. Everything got in the way. The bolt you want is down there, and you have to be directly lined up on it with a 15 millimeter. Not that one, that's the bottom one. That one right there. That is the one you need to get, and it's a 15 millimeter socket is what you need. And here's what the bolt looks like. And you know what, I forgot to mention something. Before you take it off, you have to take this bolt off because there's a wire that goes on it. So you take this one off first, and then you take that off. And that first one is what this is attached to. So you have to take this off, that's a grounding wire. You take that nut off, and then you have to get the bolt off. And to do it, you have to take all this stuff off in the front. Actually, this wasn't that bad. This took 20 minutes maybe. But we messed with trying to get it without taking this off for several hours. So to do it right, you have to take the shroud off, the frame off, the fan off, just to get those two bolts off, which is a bit of a pain. After that, it pops right off. Okay, here I am under the car, and I just put the new starter in. You got to put that flange, and you kind of have to wiggle it around. And that's the first bolt I took off. It's 15 millimeter, and it's going to be the first bolt I put back in. And up here is that double bolt. So here's that, like I said, here's that stub that nothing goes into. So once I got it lined in, I kind of put that bolt in, and I'm starting it. And as I mentioned, you have to use a wrench because there's not enough room. Once you get it in about halfway, you can use a socket, but the socket won't fit, so you got to use a wrench, and it's 15 millimeters. So I'm just going to slowly. If you have one of those ratcheting wrenches, that would be best, but I don't have a 15 millimeter. So if you're looking to change the starter on your Town and Country, yes, it's easy. It's only 2 bolts, but you do have to remove the shroud, the fan, move this frame rail up just to be able to get a big socket with the 15 millimeter in there, just to be able to get this angle, because you have to be directly on it. That's the real trick. We tried doing with extensions and everything, and it didn't work, and we even had to move, like I said, move this out of the way. You have to be directly lined up to get to that double kind of bolt thing there, to get to this one. Like I said, this is a 15 millimeter, the large one. And you can see we kind of rounded it over because we were trying to get at it from all these different angles, but you have to be directly on it. That's why you have to move everything. So it took us quite a while to get that old one off, so hopefully we'll bolt the new one up, connect it, put everything back, and it should be good. So good luck. I hope I explained it. I'll try to add some pictures to try to show you, but it's hard to show because it's under and beneath everything. But good luck getting in there.
Well, I hope you liked the video you just watched. If you did, feel free to subscribe by clicking the button on this side. You can also check out all the videos I've done, the playlist from things I've built, things I've fixed, home repair, 3D printing, and on this side you can check out a recommended video similar to the one you just watched. And as always, down in the description I'll put a link to my blog, which has more pictures and more information about the video you just watched. Thanks.